Joined by Carolyn Wisniewski, Senior Director of Development at the SPCA Tampa Bay. Carolyn, how are you?
I'm fine. How are you, Ryan?
I'm doing excellent. Thank you so much for joining us. So I think a lot of people, when they hear SPCA, they are familiar that that is an animal organization. In terms of the details and all the stuff that you guys do, I don't think people know all of that. So I really want to dive into that. But let's start with some background on the SPCA, especially the chapter here in Tampa Bay.
Sure. Thanks, Ryan. SPCA Tampa Bay is a 75-plus-year-old organization incorporated right here in Pinellas County. We serve the Tampa Bay area. We are not affiliated with some of the other organizations, and they are wonderful organizations. We do partner with other SPCAs, with other humane societies, ASPCA. Those are all completely different organizations from us. So while they are all good organizations that do great work, we're the only open admission shelter that's nonprofit that's here in Pinellas County, and we're really excited and proud of the work that we do locally.
So you guys are a very unique organization, and how did it start here in Tampa Bay?
Well, we actually started in St. Petersburg, and we have always been known as a Society for Prevention of Cruelty to Animals in one form or another, and we have jumped from location to location. Right now, we have two campuses. We have a 10-acre campus in Largo, and we just opened a new veterinary center in St. Petersburg.
So you guys are growing. You have a lot of different programs that you're involved in. Talk about some of the work that you do as the Senior Director of Development. What exactly does that entail?
So I'm responsible for raising all the funds that SPCA Tampa Bay brings in. We don't receive funds from ASPCA. We don't receive funds from the government. We don't receive different kinds of income that way. All of our contributions come from donors who give through direct mail, who I sit down and speak with, who support us in a variety of ways. And so part of my job is raising money, and the other part of it is marketing, which is a lot of fun. I get to talk to people about the fun work that we do and ask them to make an investment in something that can change the lives of animals right here in this community.
And I'm assuming adoption is the biggest part of the organization, correct?
Absolutely, absolutely. We also take in animals. So it's a combination of animals coming in and animals going out. And so our adoption program, this past year, we adopted over 3,000 animals. Almost 4,000 animals were adopted this year.
Wow. And it said that you guys take in around 7,500 animals each year that are admitted?
That's correct. And actually, we just got our stats from this year, and we actually took in over 8,000 animals this year. And a lot of that increase is due to the fact that we have really developed a specialty in wildlife. We have a couple people on staff who are really talented and have a specialty in being able to handle those kind of injured wildlife calls. So we get a lot of calls for everything from baby squirrels to pelicans to other kind of wildlife. And so we will go out and rescue them and help them when they need us.
And not every organization can do something like that. That's more of a specialty, correct?
That's correct. That's correct.
So,
and that's why we've seen that jump in wildlife, because we're one of the few agencies that can handle that.
So let's talk about the process. Where do these animals come from that get admitted to the SPCA?
So sometimes families are in a position where they are unable to care for an animal anymore, and we do our very best not to pass judgment on those folks. We know that things happen. Sometimes someone will pass away and they'll leave a pet behind, and there's nobody in the family who can care for that pet, or the family has to move and their new location doesn't accept dogs over a certain size, and they just have no other option but to surrender these animals. So we will take in any animal that's surrendered to us, and we do our best to find forever homes for those animals.
And is that the only way that animals get admitted to you guys?
That's the primary way.
Okay.
Primarily, yes.
Okay, and then the wildlife is something completely different, I'm assuming.
Yes. The wildlife, basically what will happen is we'll get a call, there's an injured squirrel or there's an injured wildlife, and we actually have we have transportation people that actually go out and handle those animals, and they've been trained in how to rescue squirrels without endangering themselves, without endangering the squirrel, the most humane way possible to bring in those animals. And typically those animals then are not available for adoption. We try to rehabilitate them and release them to the wild, or we have partner organizations that we work with that are more able to rehabilitate those animals than we are, so we'll transport them to those partner organizations.
So let's say you get a dog or a cat from a family, they can no longer care for that particular animal. What happens to the animal then once it's in SPCA custody?
So what we do is we take a really close look at the animal and we give it all its shots, all its vaccinations. We make sure it's completely up to date on its medical stuff. We also do a medical evaluation. We make sure the animal is in the best possible health that we can put the animal in. If it needs some sort of, if it needs to be spayed or neutered, we take care of that. If it needs to be microchipped, we take care of that. We also, for all dogs that come into our possession, we do a behavior analysis. We are very careful to only put dogs on the adoption floor that would be safe in someone's home. So if an animal were dangerous in any way, shape, or form, we would really take a long, close look at that animal before we would make any decisions about those kind of animals. So they go through a very detailed behavior assessment. They go through very intense medical scrutiny, and then they're put on the adoption floor and ready for adopters to come in and take them into their forever homes.
So this is a situation where if you have a dog, you determine whether or not it would be good for, say, an older couple or a family with kids or, a high-energy person. Those kinds of situations go into determining, what type of animal would be the best, what type of person would be the best match for that animal.
That's correct. Our behavior specialist, Meg Montney, has an extensive background in working with dogs especially, and she can really do, and she makes a lot of notes so that the adoption counselors are able to really help matchmake, if you will, between the adoption family. So Meg and also the other folks that work with us get a chance to know these animals as they're walking them every day,
right,
as they're interacting with them. So they're able to really see, this is a high-energy dog. It's only 2 years old. This is an older dog. Maybe it needs some special care. We also take the time to introduce, for example, dogs to other dogs in the shelter so we can see how they react around other dogs. So we do recommend, for example, if you have other dogs in your home and you are interested in adopting a dog, that you set up a time where you can bring your dog by and meet the new potential member of your family and see how they get along.
Sure.
So we do everything we can to make sure the adoption is going to go as smoothly as possible.
Right, and that's important because once these animals are adopted, especially these dogs and cats too, you want to make sure that whatever home they go to is a home that is going to be perfect for them. And if it's a mismatch, then, that often doesn't work.
That's true. And that's why our adoption counselors are so amazing. They really take the time to listen to people who come in. They try and ask what kind of dog you're looking for. Why are you looking for a dog like that? What were you envisioning? What's your lifestyle like? How much travel do you do? Those kinds of things. For example, a really big dog might not be a good match for a family that travels a lot because they would require boarding, whereas a small dog might be able to actually accompany the family when they do a lot of traveling. Those kind of things.
Sure. Also,
so
if you have a house, if you live in an apartment, there's
correct,
all kinds of different situations there.
Right. So our adoption counselors are kind of like, they play Cupid. They're a little bit like matchmakers.
Right. And let's talk about the cats, too, because,
sure,
sometimes cats get a little overlooked in the whole thing. Dogs,
they do.
A lot of people are dog people, but cats are important, and you have a lot of them at the shelter. Tell us about that process.
So we also do the same thing for the cats. When they come into us, we do a thorough medical exam. We do watch their behavior when they're interacting in the pods. We actually they're kind of like kitty condos, if you will, where we can have up to 8 cats in one colony at a time. And what that allows people to do is if they're interested in adopting a cat, they can go into the cat colony and interact with the cats and see if the cat comes up to them, if they're playful, if they're a little more shy, that kind of thing. So the cats, we have wonderful, wonderful cats, and any kind of cat that you could possibly want, we usually have them at some point in time. And we actually have, we recently had donated some cat treadmills, so you can come in and watch some of our cats use our treadmills as they get in shape and play. It's a lot of